Hi. Well, I have the NDE TV program. My name is Peggy Robinson, and I'd like to invite anyone that's had a near-death experience to contact me, ndetv@yahoo.com, to tell your experience. I wrote my book a few years ago, The Will of a Wildflower, and that's kind of how this all began. I never intended to publish. It was just going to be for me. And the morning before I started writing the book, which I had no intentions of waking up and writing a book, is the night before I had put all of my traumatic memories and wrote them down and put it in a notebook, hoping to get it all out of me. This is something that I've been holding in for a long time. I mean, I try to talk to people, but people didn't understand and they didn't want to hear those stories. And I was like a broken record player when I first started talking about it, because for decades I didn't have the words. And when you're a abused child and neglected, you tend to just hold everything in. Nobody cares anyway. And so this was a way I thought that I could put it out on paper and I put it in a drawer like it was a monster, and I was just going to trap it in there and make it leave me alone. But the next morning I had woke up and I realized I felt just as bad. And I kind of like in my mind, waved the white flag and surrendered, that I was a prisoner to these memories for the rest of my life, that everyone had abused me, had won, that I was just this victim and I was never going to recover. And this was my life. And that was a depressing moment to give up, because inside I've been such a fighter. I titled my book, The Will of a Wildflower, because I believe that it was my will that got me through to survive. And so that morning, I just looked at these notebooks that I wrote and I was like, I give up. And then something come across my vision. It took over me, of this vision of me up in the air looking down at me from behind as a younger woman, and I'm in a creek and I'm bent over. I see the back of me bent over, picking up bits of light as I walked along the creek. And it kind of made me think of, it's kind of like a metaphor of going through life and picking up light, and you're kind of in this dark woods area alone, and you're picking up these pieces of light, and you keep going, you're looking for more, and it's kind of like looking for answers. And then it was like this black curtain went across and all the dark memories just got moved to the side, and this light come in, and I now in my heart I could remember more clearly all the spiritual things that I had talked a little about, but most of them people aren't going to believe. And so I just grabbed my laptop and I just started writing. And I felt a guide the whole time, like somebody is standing on the other side of my laptop looking at me, and I'm just to tell the story to them. And I went from my earliest memory on through to present. And it was a healing thing for me. It was a documentation, because I wanted to tell the spiritual experiences, but I had to relive the abuse and the bad experiences so people would understand and appreciate what these spiritual experiences meant to me. My spiritual experiences start on the first page. My earliest memory is I'm 2 years old. I don't know why I said 2 years old. I interviewed somebody the other day who's 2 years old. I'm sorry. I was a baby, a few months old, in a baby bed. And I was sitting there and I'm watching the other kids run past the doorway. I'm in my parents' bedroom in a baby bed, and they're in the living room running back and forth. And I'm praying to God, like, why would a baby in a baby bed have any knowledge of what God is? But I'm saying, excuse me, you sent me to the wrong family. And so I'm waiting to be switched. I'm like, this family's weird and they don't like me. And within this memory, I have a memory of heaven where I had been before. And they always took care of me, every want, every need. like before I'd even feel uncomfortable, I was always taken care of. And I remember this place. I remember the feeling vividly, but as far as seeing and things, I just remember being catered to. And so I knew who I was talking to would fix the problem, you know, switch me to my right family because you sent me down to the wrong one. And I sat there waiting, and silence was my answer. I was stuck in this life with this family, and I felt abandoned. And then my next memory goes to my 5-year-old drowning. I was 5 years old, and I drowned in the pond at the bottom of our hill in Constitution, Ohio. It's now called Catfish Paradise. Back then, it was just a pond down the bottom of our hill. I had got a board and was floating on it, and we got out in the middle of the pond, and my brother come and took my board, and I went under and I drowned. And I remember trying to get my head above water, and it didn't last very long at all, and I was down under and I couldn't get back up, and I was gulping and scared, and the water was dark brown, muddy, and I'm so scared, and I'm tumbling, and I've lost direction of what's up, and so I'm trying to get up, but I don't know what's up anymore. Am I really forcing myself to go down further or sideways? I don't know. And then my throat starts hurting so bad, and I believe I'm screaming underwater. And then I am at the ceiling of our kitchen, and I'm watching my mom and my sister get stuff to come down to the pond, because mom had said for my brother and I to go on down, and her and my sister be down a little bit. And I felt their emotions. They were so calmly getting things, and I was just there observing. And then I'm back in that water, throat hurting so bad. And then it was like I woke up, like from a nap, because you're all rested and calm. And the water was muddy brown now. When I wake up, it's a bright, shiny, transparent green, like there's a light in there. And I'm drifting down deeper in the water, but I'm not scared like I was before. And my thought as a 5-year-old is, my parents lied to me. Why did they lie to us? They always said, be careful, kids, you'll drown. I thought there's no such thing as drowning, because I'm fine. Y'all was scared for nothing. And then as I got down, drifted down deeper, the fish were bumping into me, and I realized I didn't want to be a dead child at the bottom of this pond. And with that thought, I rose up to the top of the water, and it was like I could see perfectly above or below, like I had a choice. What did I want? And I thought, well, I'll go above. So I got about as high as the treetops, and I thought, that's high enough. I'm going to stay right here. And I looked down at the pond, and I thought, well, if I can hover, I guess I'm a ghost. And what do ghosts do? They fly. I mean, that's what Casper Friendly Ghost did. That's all I knew about death. And I thought about going right towards Belpre or left towards Marietta. And then I heard a voice, a female voice, a small distance from me, saying, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back. I thought, go back? That's not how death works. And I thought, what's she talking about, go back? And I thought, well, I'll be a good girl for a while, because, I could tell it's an adult voice. But then I thought, I don't think I have to listen to anybody anymore. I mean, with death, I thought, gosh, I don't have to eat them gross vegetables. I don't have to sit at the table and do my plates clean, because I was a very picky eater. I was very small for my age. My dad always got mad at me for not eating my food. And I didn't have to be in at dark, I didn't go to bed. I didn't have to do anything. I was free. And I thought, okay, there's advantages to this. So I know she said wait, but I think I waited long enough. And so I'm going to go towards Belpre. And I remember my mom had said at this moment, I remember my mom saying, the only thing in Belpre is old people. And so then I have this flash if I'm walking in an abandoned house and there's older people sitting around a kitchen table in a kitchen. And as I walk in the doorway, they turn and look at me. And I believe they are ghosts. I'm looking for kids to play with. And I tell them that. Do you know where I can find kids to play with? And they said, go to the graveyards. So I thought, okay, it's graveyards. I think that's Marietta. So I went towards Marietta, went back to the pond, hovered over that. And then I went down the highway towards Marietta. And there was two boys walking with fishing poles. And one was carrying a bucket, an older one and a younger one. And I just was walking along talking to them, but they were ignoring me. And I wasn't catching on. It's because you're dead, they can't hear you. And I was like, gosh, they're ignoring me just like my 4 older siblings do. And but then the younger one started a telepathic conversation. I would say, "Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, we're headed home. You know, we're late. We're running." And so, okay, you know, so okay, so I went on flying down the highway, still looking for kids to play with. I went down onto the west side, down the corner by Lord Street, on the way in front of my aunt's house, but on the way to my grandparents' house on my dad's side. But on that corner there, I saw a bunch of kids and a big family running around playing. So I started running around the yard playing with those kids. As a ghost, I'm running around playing with them kids. And again, I got a little bored because, you know, they're kind of ignoring me. I'm starting to get, they don't see me, they don't know I'm here. So what am I going to do? So I went on down towards my grandparents' house, and I'm floating in and out of houses on the left side of that street. And then next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'm over my brother's shoulder. He's carrying my dead body back to the house. And I'm dangling, and I could see my mom and my sister walking up ahead towards the house. And I start barfing up water down his back. And he said, "Mom, can I put her down now?" And my mom turned and looked and seen I'm now alive. And yeah. But she turned around, her and my sister continued walking up to the house, didn't say a word to me, didn't check on me, didn't thank God. I mean, they just went. And my brother set me down at the train tracks at the bottom of the hill and ran on up to the house with them. And I'm standing there sick with pond water in my belly. I'm weak and full knowledge of what just took place. And then I remembered something else that took place during that drowning. When I was hovered above the pond, I got knowledge that my family didn't love me. And this just proved it. This reminded me of that. Oh, they really don't. And then I thought about, I was just about to go flying more and have fun. And I was going to go to that cemetery and find kids. And I was going to live this life of freedom. And so I thought, I'm going to go back to that pond and I'm going to drown. It's going to hurt really bad, but I'm going to fight it this time. So I want to go back where I was. Why would I go up to that house? That family don't love me. Why would I live a life like that? And at that moment, I kind of had that memory of in my baby bed that I was sent to the wrong family. And it just didn't seem like I should be here. And I started to walk down the road to go to the pond. And I didn't walk very far. And the voice that I heard before that said, "Don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back," is now in the shape of this woman hovering above the road. And she's just bright white light in the shape of a young, thin woman with this flowing white gown. And everything's just white. And she says, "No, don't." I said, "Why not? You know they don't love me." And she says, "Well, you'll have a lot of love someday." And I said, "Where will I find it?" And she pointed right towards Belpre. And I went on home, got out of my bathing suit, got on pajamas. Nobody come to check on me. I don't know where everybody was at in the house. I realize now that it was a secret. I found out years later. I remembered all this after my second NDE when I was 25. And that come to me in a vision, just took up the whole sky and showed me the drowning. So at that time, I went and asked my mom, "Did I drown when I was little?" She said, "Yeah, you did." And she said she didn't tell anyone because their first child, Junior, which would be 6 children for them, there's 5 living, he died at 9 months old. And she said my dad's family blamed her. And she knew when I died from the drowning that everybody would blame her for my death too. So it was quiet. And I would have never known if that vision hadn't opened up that day and showed me. And people don't talk about things like this. We keep it quiet. People will think we're crazy. They're going to think we're attention seekers. They're going to think all kinds of things. And we know that. I mean, we're not that crazy that we don't know the consequences of telling the truth. Just like with abuse, you know the consequences of telling the truth. So my childhood after that was a little strange for a while, just like it was a little strange for a while after the 25-year-old near-death experience. It seems like you bring something back with you when you've been on the other side. I call it the land of all knowing. And you get information and voices speak to you, and you kind of see spirits, or maybe you might feel them there, but don't exactly see, but you see it enough that you know they're there. And so those things come back after my drowning. And these things were so strange that to tell them, I mean, I knew I sound completely ridiculous. But I'm 60 years old now, and I really don't care what people think. All I care about is getting my truth out before I go back to heaven for good. And so what happened was, after the drowning, our family went fishing as a whole family of 5 kids, mom and dad, a few miles up the road from where we lived, Vito Lake. And everybody started getting their fishing poles as usual. And I'm no longer concerned about fishing. I see more fish than I cared to from the drowning, which I didn't talk about. And so I felt led. And I started wandering off towards the woods. And I see my mom yell at my brother and say, "Go with her." Like, she didn't want dad to know about the drowning. She didn't know what was going on. Just like, there goes Peg again. You know, she's going to get hurt. And so John was mad at me. He said, "I get blamed for everything you do. It's not my fault that you drowned," because my sister had come and he was telling her that. And so those two took off another direction and left me alone, which was fine. I just walked into the woods and I felt led, like, go over here, go over here. And I stood there and I thought, why am I here? I want to go over there along the lake. Why am I here? There's nothing here. There's dry, cracked mud and leaves, and it's all dirty from the mud and sticks. And I was just standing there like, how gross. And I was like, stay here. There's something here for you. And then my eye caught a wildflower growing out from underneath a rock. And I went over to that wildflower, sat down, and I was like, well, look at you. How did you grow in this awful place underneath the rock? And you're here all by yourself. And like, I found a friend. And I had compassion for this flower. And I started this conversation. And then somehow, and I believe it was the angel, found a way to communicate me through, get my attention this way. And then I was told, not through the flower, but telepathic, like I understood things telepathic during drowning. You're like this wildflower. You're growing up in a harsh, rough environment. But because of it, you will have a strength inside of you that other girls will never know. And someday I would celebrate the victory of survival. And I would have a strength inside of me that other girls would never know. And I was so excited. It's just like my future was foretold. You're going to have it rough, but you will survive, and you will be so glad you did. And you'll be celebrating that you made it through this. And so I went along the lake and I picked flowers, and we went to get in the car to leave. And Mom said, "My God, throw those weeds away." Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there squished in the back seat with my siblings, and I'm just smiling ear to ear, and nobody knows why, but I'm thinking, I'm going to be beautiful like that wildflower. I want to grow up strong and you know, I had all this spunk. And I guess it helped take the depression away from the drowning and the yearning to go back. So my childhood was rough. I had an older brother that was always trying to sexually abuse me, and I always got away from him. I learned how to protect myself. My oldest sister is mentally disabled, and she wasn't able mentally to protect herself from him. And I had a middle sister that was a compulsive liar, that was always pulling tricks on me, didn't want my brothers playing with me, talking to me, which was fine that my older brother stayed away. That's fine. But my other brother, the one just a couple years older than me, I wanted to play with him, but nope, that was hers. He was hers. And I wasn't to have a friend, a sibling. And so I got very close to my older sister, was disabled. And it wasn't long at all before I was like her mother. And to this day, she's 6 years older than me, and I still feel like her mother. I feel it's always been my job to watch out for her and protect her and make sure she's taken care of. At some point, too, I kind of felt like my mother's mother. My parents got divorced when I was 10, and my mom come and asked me, what should I do? You know, should I marry him? I know he's abusive to you kids. And me, I'm just like, Mom, do what makes you happy. I loved my mother tremendously, and all I wanted was her to be happy. And he was my stepfather was a raging, violent, abusive alcoholic. And one by one, my siblings from oldest to youngest ran away due to the abuse. Like, he would start with the oldest, with Melody, and then she left, and then she got married. And she went to my dad's, and then she got married. And then my brother Steve, he was upset that we were going to move to the country, and we'd lived in town for a couple of years after the divorce, and he didn't want to leave his friends. And so I come in from playing one night, and my three siblings, not my oldest sister, but the other three, were in the kitchen, and my mom and stepdad was asleep in the room next door. And my stepdad was going to wake up and get his thermos of coffee, and he was a truck driver, and go for his trip. My mom often went with him and left us kids alone, which meant the older kids was with their friends the whole time, and I was alone at the house with nothing at all to eat. And I actually went through starvation and loneliness and abandonment. And so, but this night I walked in and I went back to the kitchen. It was the only light that was on in the house. It was just starting to get dark. And my three siblings were getting ready to put rat poison in my stepdad's coffee pot. They said, he has abused all of us, and we don't want to move. We don't want to change schools. He will wake up and fill his coffee pot. He'll be driving the semi. He will wreck and die, and our problems will be over. And I said no, because they said, now that you've seen this, you have to be a part of it, or we can't do it. And I said, no, no way. And so they put the rat poison back underneath the cabinet and said, okay, said, this is whatever happens to us from now on is your fault. And my brother ended up going to court with my dad and told of neglect and things, and some sexual things. And it was done to him, and he got to live with my dad. Later, my middle sister ran away, and she got to live with my dad. My dad, I tried to go too, but he didn't want me. And then when I was 16, my stepdad was abusing me so much that even my mom was saying, it's a matter of time before he kills you. And friends at school were seeing the bruises and said, he's going to kill you. You got to get out of there. And one Black friend of mine, Lily, she says, I have a cousin that will take you to your dad's. Just be down the road at 5 o'clock tonight, and he will take you to Marietta to your dad. So I said, okay. He picked me up, he kidnapped me, and he raped me. During the rape, I left my body. I was praying. I knew it was going to happen. He had threatened me. He had threatened to kill me. He refused to take me to my dad's. And so he busted the lock open in his little shed out in the woods, and he was making a fire, and I was on a cot, and I knew what was going to happen. And months before, at my middle sister's house, she had moved out of dad's and was living with friends, and she had a big party, and two of the men saw me outside. One jumped out of the bushes, and the other one I was walking down the road with, talking to, were brothers, and they tried to rape me, and I fought and fought and fought and fought. And just before they got their way. I saw a guy step out of that trailer and I started screaming. He come over and he made him stop. And my sister lied and said I dreamt it. And so I didn't tell about that. And plus I didn't want to get her in trouble. She's getting ready to go to the army and things. And they would all blame me anyway. Nobody cared about me. And my stepdad was always calling me names, and I was a virgin and he thought I was this big slut. And so there I am, about to be raped at 16, run away, trying to go to my dad's to save my life, knowing I knew he didn't want me, but I had no other options. And I just started praying. I said, God, I wish I wasn't even on this earth. Nobody loves me. And now they're going to hate me because this is a Black man. We're Southeast Ohio, and I knew how prejudiced my family was, even though I absolutely hated prejudice and I fought against it. And I had Black friends, and my family would get so mad at me and threaten me what they would do to me if they ever caught me around them. And so I knew the consequences of being raped by a Black man. And I wasn't able to fight like I fought those two men before because this man already threatened me. We're in a tool trailer, and I was scared to death. He's gonna take a tool and just bash my head in. So I started praying. God, I wish I even on this earth. Suddenly, I was up in the night sky among the twinkling stars, the black night sky. I had my long, dark brown hair, my skinny little body. The wind was blowing my hair real gentle. It was like you're at the beach. It's just wonderful, and I was safe, and I didn't care how or why that I was there. I felt rescued. And then when I started worrying, oh, wait a minute, I'm 16, I can't stay here forever. I do want to live my life. Then I was back, and the rape was over, and I had no memory of it. And the next day I got away from him and had called the police and told him what happened. But because I didn't fight, I didn't understand that was rape. Because I wasn't hitting and screaming and carrying on like I had before, I felt I allowed it to happen. So he got charged with statutory rape, even though before the shed, he had taken me to a bar in Athens. I think it's called Magoo's. And as soon as he went to the bathroom, I ran over and got two guys playing pinball. And I said, that guy has kidnapped me. He was supposed to take me to my dad's. He's refusing to take me to my dad's. I'm going to try and go to him all night. He's threatened to drown me in a lake. And I don't care if you take me back to my family. I don't care if the police come arrest me. Get me away from him. And so when that man came out of the bathroom, there was an altercation, but he still was able to grab me and throw me in the truck, and he was madder than ever. And I knew I just better keep my mouth shut if I wanted to stay alive till morning. So it was a traumatic childhood. It was knowing you're not loved, then realizing you're hated, being treated like you mean nothing. And after I had caught my siblings trying to poison my stepdad, I was walking across the train bridge in Marietta, go to the west side to visit my cousin, and my sister come along, my middle sister, and she tried to get me to jump off the bridge. And I knew that it was because she was afraid I would tell about them going to poison my stepdad, which I never told anything, even though they called me a tattletale and mommy's little baby. And that was before their divorce, before I was 10 years old, that I was spoiled and a tattletale. And after my mom got my stepdad, I didn't tell anything anymore. Nobody was there, or mom didn't have the time, nobody cared, whatever. It's just like, you just get through life. And so I did have this traumatic childhood. And when I was 18, my stepdad kicked me out, which I knew he would. He was always threatening to kick me out. And I thought, as soon as he kicks me out, after I turn 18, I'm going. Because when I ran away, I got put on probation. And they said, if you break one rule of your parents' rules, you will be sent upriver till you're 18, which is like kids' jail. So I had to walk the line. And my mom had come in my room one night, said she was going to kill me, and my stepdad knocked me out cold. My brother is a couple years older than me. He knocked me out cold, and I just kept going because I didn't want to go to jail. So I kept my mouth shut. And so when I turned 18, and first time my mom went ballistic, I was already working. I got enough credits. I got out in January, my senior year, and I started working in a nursing home, and I was saving all my checks because I knew I'd be kicked out. And so after I got kicked out, I bought a car for $300, and I was living in it, and I continued working, and I continued dating my boyfriend, and I ended up pregnant, and we ended up getting married and starting a family. When I was 20, I was pregnant for the second one, and my ex, he come from a big Catholic family, 12 kids, and I always wanted a lot of kids. But he made me get my tubes tied with the second one, which the doctor told me I should too, because back then they said if you've had 2 cesareans, you can't have any more. And plus he didn't want any more, but he wouldn't even discuss, getting a second opinion, and which I got a second opinion. And he said, no, that's not true. You could even have vaginal birth if you wanted. So I signed the papers, and it was the most devastating thing in my life. I was, in my mind, if I didn't sign these papers, my husband at the time would divorce me and take our children. I had no family support, and he had a bunch. And with 2 kids, and minimum wage was $4 at the time, I couldn't afford daycare, couldn't afford to work. And so I was stuck. And so I signed the papers. Well, when I was 25, I found out that I could have that tube ligation reversed. And so I begged him for a year. Well, I found out I was 24, begged him for a year, got it done when I was 25. Very next month, I'm pregnant for twins. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, right? Well, ended up being 2 pregnancy, and I died from ectopic pregnancy. I was in the hospital in the emergency room, and I was being pushed in a wheelchair to a room, my head down, and I died. And I was through a tunnel. It sounded like this, like this vibration, this loud noise through this tunnel. And then I'm in a bright white light, and I'm looking around, and there's nobody there but me. And then to my right, I see a panel of people, and then I see one sitting up front and center. That has to be God. And I threw a fit, because I said, I have kids to raise. I am not going to leave them down there. And what if my mom gets custody? And my ex, he drank a lot, and he came from a big drinking family, Catholic family. And I'm not leaving my kids down there. It's like leaving down there with wolves. And I've told more in depth of that NDE in my talks. And but next thing I know, I'm back in the wheelchair, because I was at Jesus' feet, because then later Jesus came and was sitting beside Jesus, and I was at his feet, and I see my hands come up. So now I do have a body there. First, I didn't have a body. There was no me or nothing. And I said, who else will teach them about you? And then I'm back in that wheelchair. And I knew, because of that, I just died and was sent back, that whatever was wrong with me wasn't fixed. And my doctor said, you do not have a tubal pregnancy. Why do you keep saying that? He's like, I can let you stay all night, but you don't have a tubal pregnancy. It'll make you feel better. And all night long, I kept dying. I kept passing out, but I was on Dr. Oz 2 years ago, and he confirmed what I always believed. Every time I passed out, I died. So that's the gist of my story. The Will of a Wildflower. My book is used in some social work departments to teach social workers about child welfare corruption and about child abuse. They said that my emotional maltreatment is the worst case of emotional maltreatment they've ever heard of or read about. Because later, after I lost the twins, I began being led, and I had like a second sense knowledge when kids needed help. I started saving lives. I started doing foster care, and then I started doing therapeutic foster care. I ended up having 60 foster kids, and we adopted 10 of them. I was also a child abuse investigator, and I had went to college, and then I became a child abuse investigator. And from the first month I was there 7 years. I just instinctively knew when a child needed help, what was going on. And I had more spiritual experiences after that, connections to people that have passed, angels coming to tell me when somebody's going to pass. It's been a strange life, but I wanted to own my life and say, yes, it's not like everybody else's, but these things do happen to other people too. And I just want to come on and say that anybody that's had a near-death experience, give me a contact me on NDE TV, and I'll be happy to have you on the show.